get a couple things buttoned up. Watch the video that I did last night. You know, I've been doing these videos for a while now, and I try to figure out, you know, just a few basic things, and then the YouTube channel just morphs into like its own thing. Rescheduling with Matt Cox. I've got some family stuff coming up. I said that in another video, but I didn't upload the video. You know, I sit here and just watch all this stuff that goes on in the world, and I know that we all have our opinions, but there are things that just strike me as inherently right or inherently wrong. You know, like when you learn how to play chess, King's Gambit, Queen's Gambit, French defense, you'll have all these different types of games that or options available to you when you're playing, you know, and even at an expert level, you still don't know every single contingency that's going to happen. Magnus Carlsen's pretty good at it, but still, even he doesn't know everything that's going to happen. He's been beaten. And when you're trying to figure out where life's going with all of the variables and everything that go on with that, none of us really know who's in control, or if even the people that seemingly are in control really have a solid grasp on things. You know, you'll hear it all the time. The experts, you know, all the experts that work for the government, but they can't solve a problem to save their life. Social security systems in shambles, the national debt. I mean, they've got every single thing, but these experts. So, like, you know, like my little Occam's razor thing, which means like the simplest thing being true, I like to just stick with simple principles that I know are inherently correct or inherently wrong. Being productive, inherently correct. Did you get up and do something today to produce something that is something someone else would willingly pay for? Yes or no? I did. Inherently wrong. Killing children or killing anyone, basically the golden rule, you know. Is it outside of that? Yes or no? It's pretty simple. Would people want sentient swarms of killer drones surveilling and killing him? Yes or no? Probably not. You know, I don't have all the answers, guys. I'm driving to school right now trying to make sure that I expand my skill set so I can be a positive impact on this world. You know, I started this channel because I didn't know whether or not Ed was telling the truth. And then I start pulling on a thread and I see all the things that go on with the YouTube business. And it is a business. It's got very little to do with truth. If the truth is there, it's convenient. There are shows, some that I like better than others. Camp Gagnon's, I love his show. You'll watch all these people go from comedy to launching a YouTube channel. You'll watch people like Navy SEALs and CIA operatives sit there talking about drinking on their initial videos, like with Sean Ryan, get sober and turn into everything. I don't have any idea where my channel is going to go. But I do know that when people are getting together for sporting events, then all the participants ought to be allowed in. They've allowed it in the Olympics and Russia and everything, with the exception of the one Olympics that were in the United States. You know, getting selection not out on American soil for anything other than just playing, especially when they're not even the ones that bombed anybody. It was our favorite club with the small, tiny hat club. You know, I try not to be disparaging to anybody either, because we're all human beings and see the world a certain way. However, when you are the aggressor, the one initiating violence, and then you're going to sit there and act like the team that you initiated violence against isn't welcome in something than you, which the World Cup and Olympics clearly are. You got little baby backpacks everywhere, man. You know, that's so inherently wrong. I defy my own God against it. Maybe you would too. Hey, Joe. Hey, you guys. And so, getting back to chess, I don't have to sit there and be able to analyze a string of 50 moves, white and black, to ascertain the basic truth that, you shouldn't be killing kids, or that you should be hospitable to people, or that the First Amendment, the freedom to say whatever you want, when it's not convenient and when it is offensive, because that's where this government's going. It's not even the tiny hat club saying that you can't be anti-Semitic. It's the government wants to control more and more aspects of your life. Data centers that are all about surveillance, flock cameras everywhere. I've already driven by several of them. And then all of this is supposedly consensual. And we live in a society to where people don't want to fight their own fights, are bolstered or backed up by people that have legal and financial immunity to inflict any wrong. And then you're going to have your day in court, except the Supreme Court won't give you your day in court because they refuse to hear your case. There's just one instance after another of grave injustices going on. And even like the little baby in Walmart, people want to sit there and talk smack about it. Officers do jump in front of cars. And we'll leave the correctness or rightness or wrongness of that out. But just suppose it was your baby that was shot over a stolen sweatshirt or whatever. Maybe they ought to have a better security system leaving the store to where the people aren't being deprived of their belongings, because I do believe that merchants should be able to profit off of what they're selling without being ripped off constantly. And then, yeah, I don't consent either, Joe. Never did. None of us have. I consented to buy this vehicle. None of us would be happy if that was our child that was shot, but because it happened to somebody else so often, the Austin Metcalf thing. Everybody and their mother knows Carmelo was under that tent talking full smack. There were several witnesses. And Carmelo Anthony might have been bucking up because he's a little bigger, but does he deserve to be stabbed over defending his tent and his space? Definitely not. At the same time, Zimmerman, whether he's white or black, doesn't deserve to have someone smashing his head against the concrete. There are all these things, and people don't want to treat people with the golden rule. I got to get my butt to school here in a little bit. I'm almost there. But these are just things that I think about, man. Maybe you think about it too. I didn't consent. I was just told to. That is correct. Every single law, including the seatbelt law, they will shoot you if you don't want to go to jail or pay your fine. Every law in this country that you didn't consent to, gathering rainwater, they will kill you in order to get you to comply. And these are things that I think politicians ought to bring to account. The Second Amendment. When is it okay to exercise the Second Amendment against a tyrannical American government? Politicians don't want to touch that one with a stick like it's a third rail on the subway in Brooklyn. There are all these things with common sense that people need. Here's a good one. Congress and the Senate should define exactly when it is the American government, they themselves, are being tyrannical. How about that? So that way we don't have to guess. That way you don't have to beat around the bush. You can just get right to the point. Like when you're in high school, you want to hook up with a chick and you go to the date, you get home and you want to get to the point. Forgive me a little grosseria, but why fuck around? Just get right to it. Get to the heart of the matter. This is tyrannical. This isn't. Hey, killing fucking little babies is tyrannical, even if it's done by our closest ally, excuse me. Things that the government is not doing their job defining things. Everything's run through an executive order which completely circumvents Congress having anything to do with it or represents, Even the government isn't a representative government because it's so small compared to the amount of populace that we have here. That's it. I'm here at school, man. Cheers. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.